What's going on, everybody? We are back with another video, and when I say we, I mean me, Jay Jingles, also known as Season 4 team coach of the Toronto 6. How's it going? I had an idea for another video. I've heard a few people kind of say like, yeah, I'm kind of getting ready to get, to start prepping for Season 4 and just drafts in general. So hopefully this video doesn't just, start with now and just stay with Season 4, but this kind of works with throughout all seasons. So if anybody wants to look back at this video, then it'll probably be a little bit of help. Obviously it's not the end all be all, everything I say here is just really just extra help. It's not so much this is what will win you games, but it's more so just abilities and moves and stuff like that. Might do it in one video, I might do it in two, depending on how long it goes and how long I do this intro. So let's get started. So I got Showdown open here just to kind of show when I talk about a certain Pokemon and a certain ability, which is what we're going to start with, abilities. So I'm going to start with undervalued or underused or under whatever abilities. What does that mean? So we're talking about abilities that people aren't really using as much as I think they should, or abilities that people forget about and how good they actually are. And we're going to go over a little bit of that now. So there might be some stuff that you already know about and you're like, Jason, just go on to the next one. You can just fast forward. This is YouTube, but if there's something that you were unaware of, or unaware that a Pokemon got something, or hey, that's pretty cool value, hopefully this helps. So let's dive into it. So the first ability I'm going to go for is Mold Breaker. Mold Breaker, everybody knows about Mold Breaker, right? Mold Breaker? Do they? I don't think people realize it because I haven't seen it a whole lot in Draft League. Well, at least not in the WPL that we've been running. What is Mold Breaker? First of all, we'll get into who gets it and certain situations that you can use it. Mold Breaker, it ignores the Pokemon's ability that affects your hit. So whether or not, what are some examples? So what's it called? The absorption abilities like Volt Absorb, Water Absorb, Sap Zipper, Flash Fire, all that stuff. So if you attack into that Pokemon with Mold Breaker, that ability will not work. You'll just attack right through it. So what are a couple of other scenarios? So a lot of people rely on them actually. So a lot of guys get a Lightning Rod user next to something weak to Electric, such as a Water type Pokemon or a Flying type Pokemon, things like that. So something with Mold Breaker doing that attack, it will not absorb it, and you'll be able to attack right through it. Mold Breaker is also kind of with the Gen 8 max moves. So Hydro Snipe from Inteleon, Pyro Ball from, or G-Max Pyro, whatever his G-Max move is, it ignores the secondary effect, such as the Mold Breaker as well. So that's why I was able to attack one season with G-Max Hydro Snipe into a Gastrodon. It didn't get absorbed and give him the special attack boost. It just attacked right through it, hit it for neutral damage, and killed it. So Mold Breaker, let's get back to Mold Breaker. So other ways that it can be used. So unconventional ways that people wouldn't really use it or aren't really using it that way. So a taunt user into a Pokemon that gets Oblivious, for example. So, for example, the Slowbro gets Oblivious. A lot of people really like Slowbro because you can't taunt it to stop the Trick Room from happening and things like that. So in this case, you can actually use taunt. And a lot of these Pokemon here, like Excadrill, Haxorus, Hawlucha, some of them actually get taunt. So this is an actual scenario that you can do it. And a lot of the times you can't taunt a Magic Bounce user, such as Hatterene, right? So it's usually pretty safe, doesn't have to worry about any of that stuff. But if you have Mold Breaker, you don't have to worry about that. Just go straight through and works just fine. Aroma Veil, same thing as well. I believe that's for sleep. So you can put them to sleep regardless. Aroma Veil, maybe I'm going to look that up. This is a video. Aroma Veil. What does Aroma Veil do? Sweet Veil, Aroma Veil, yeah, so you can't taunt them, you can't torment them. Same thing as Oblivious is what I was talking about, but we're going to use Sweet Veil as an example. So other ways that Mold Breaker gets through, abilities like Solid Rock, damage reducing abilities. Solid Rock from Rhyperior, Multi-scale from Dragonite, Friend Guard from Clefairy. People draft these Pokemon specifically for those abilities, and your ability, Mold Breaker, on any one of these Pokemon on this list is just going to go right through that. So that's why I think it's so valuable. And not to mention, like, obviously Sturdy is a big one too. Fur Coat on Alolan Persian, Ice Scales on Frostmoth and things like that. So Mold Breaker goes straight through that. There's big ones as well, like Mimikyu gets Disguise, so this goes right through Disguise. If you're expecting it to get a Trick Room up behind a Disguise, whatever, they have to attack twice to me, one hit, you're done. Same thing with Ice Cube, with Ice Face and things like that. So you don't have to worry about those abilities. So yeah, that's why I think Mold Breaker is very, very undervalued, because look at all those scenarios that could happen on a weekly basis, not just in a specific matchup. I think you could probably make use of Mold Breaker every single week if you wanted to. What else? Yeah, able to drop stats against abilities like Clear Body, Hyper Cutter, White Smoke, things like that. Clear Body is one of the best abilities in the game, in my opinion, which is why it's not on this list. Everybody knows about it. Dragapult, Metagross, things like that. You can drop stats through those abilities with, say, Fake Tears or a Charm or things like that. Especially because they're relying on it most of the time. Those things you're not going to put a White Herb on your Metagross or on your Dragapult, because you don't have to worry about it for the most part. So you can really catch guys off guard with that. And so Pokemon that can use it, the basic ones are Excadrill, Hawlucha, Pangoro, Haxorus. I think we've really seen Haxorus. We haven't seen a whole lot of Excadrill. Another thing that I didn't mention as well, Excadrill being a really good ground type, all of the Rotoms are unsafe. Well, except one, but we'll get into that one. But Levitate, a lot of those Rotoms rely on that Levitate ability to give them an immunity with their one weakness, or one of their weaknesses with their electric typing. So Excadrill just goes right through that, and I can see it getting overlooked. If somebody's in prep saying, oh, okay, I'll just have this and I don't have to worry about this. Meanwhile, you're coming in with Mold Breaker. You can really, it could actually get you a win. This ability could get you a win 1 week if they're not ready for it. So, but I hope I don't take this long on every ability. But yeah, I wanted to go over Pokemon that got it. I went over a few of them, but Dredigan, I think because of its speed tier, can be very, very good. I think its coverage is really good too. It gets Rough Skin, Sheer Force, Mold Breaker. That's one Pokemon that is very underused and very undervalued. Pinsir as well, Sock, Throw, things, and then you got the lower end here, other than the ones I mentioned. Basculin with Adaptability, just hiding there, waiting for someone to use it. So hopefully that might be used. Adaptability with 92, whatever. Shut up, Jason. Go on to the next one. Inner Focus. Inner Focus we've seen a few times. We haven't seen it a lot, but there's a lot of Pokemon that get Inner Focus that I feel aren't used. And Inner Focus makes you such a good Pokemon to use for any ability, for setup, for getting an attack off, things like that. We just saw it with Umbreon this season. Umbreon was arguably one of the best Pokemon in the entire league. Didn't win the MVP, but it was Cascade Illusion's MVP all season, mostly because of that Inner Focus, because it's such a pest, such a pain, and you can't fake it out, which is just awesome. But let's get into other things. So not only will it not be able to flinch with Inner Focus, it can't be intimidated. Very, very cool stuff. So let's go over to Inner Focus here. Inner Focus. Who gets Inner Focus? A lot of things. Mega Gallade. We're in a Mega tier this season, so that's one thing. You can't intimidate or fake it out. So I believe that this season Megas aren't going to be massively leaned on. But that being said, you're probably safe to fake out a Mega Pokemon rather than a potential Dynamax Pokemon, because of you can't fake out a Dynamax Pokemon or flinch it. So Mega Gallade with its ability, Inner Focus, can be very good, and with its massive attack stat, 165, can't be intimidated. It's going to be kind of hard to stop, so I can see someone scooping this up with that ability. Very underlooked, and not the sexiest pick at all with Mega Gallade, but Inner Focus on an attacker is very, very good. So let me see what else gets it. I'm pretty sure Dragonite gets it too. Entei, Hitmonchan, Oranguru, you know, for the fake outs and things like that, trying to get Trick Room up. Umbreon, as I mentioned. Yeah, Entei, very underlooked. A lot of people are using Inner Focus Entei on the ladder because of that Inner Focus ability, not so much pressure. But yeah, Crobat as well, Inner Focus, getting a Tailwind, things like that. We've seen more use of Inner Focus in our league, in the WPL, than you know, most of these other abilities. But again, Inner Focus Alakazam, depending on which one you were going to use on a given week in your draft league, Magic Guard with Life Orb could be one week and you run offensive, or you can run Inner Focus on the Alakazam and you could just do a lot of different shenanigans with him because his move pool is so vast. So what else? Great for Pokemon to be able to set up and not having to worry about fake out, physical attackers not being able to be intimidated, which is awesome. And I went through the Pokemon that it can work with very well. So yeah, after the description, go do your own research, go looking to see what you might think can work, which is the awesome part about Draft League. Glalie gets Inner Focus as well. That's interesting. Mega Glalie, everybody. Anyway, another ability, which I think is massively underused, probably one of the most deadly ones on this list, competitive / defiant. I think every team in the league should have at least one of these. You want to know why? Because people don't want to drop your stats, don't want to use Intimidate. When I'm on the ladder and I see someone with a competitive Mon, I usually don't bring my Intimidate Mon, let alone lead it. They might have it in the back, you know, because you can use it late game against other things. But a lot of the times when I see an Incineroar or an Arcanine or something like that on the other side of the field, I will lead my Defiant / competitive Pokemon on my side of the field. A lot of the times they lead it as well. So some ways you can draw out that Intimidate as well. You can make them bring it by having a Pokemon that is massively affected by it, such as a Dracovish, T-Tar, things like that. They're definitely susceptible to that Intimidate. So having a really strong, like a Kartana is another one. A lot of people were like, I'll just Intimidate, get the -1 because of its massive attack stat. If you have, you can even lead Kartana, for example, if you got it and your competitive Mon together. And that way, if he leads the Intimidate, one of your Pokemon gets a +2 on the special attack side. Or they don't lead the Intimidate and your Kartana is just able to go off. So those two can really pair well together. So a physical attacker with a competitive or defiant one can be very dangerous. So let me see. So just in case people don't know what those abilities are, if a stat is lowered, the Pokemon receives +2 attack if you're defiant or +2 special attack if you're competitive. Yeah, they deter Intimidate users, that, and also, not to mention, every max move, I'd say most max moves except for the ones that set weather and things like that, or raise your own stats, lower yours. So switching in your competitive Mon into, say they're clearly going to Dynamax or Max move into your opponent or your partner, and they're just dead. You can actually count your losses and switch in the other slot to your Defiant Mon, because both Pokemon get the stat drop, and you get the +2 or the +2 special attack. So special attack, depending on what you have. And so many Pokemon get it too. So yeah, the only problem with I've seen people try to do this, like, you can't lower your own stats on there are ways you can by, like, you know, like Magic Balance and stuff like that. But the really the only ways for you to activate these for the most part is if your opponent lowers yours. So sneaky switch-ins and things like that, or just playing, you know, good fundamental Pokemon can actually get you those boosts. Thundurus Incarnate was actually one of the ones that were just massive, right? So let's just go to Defiant. People didn't want to lead an Intimidate user. Galarian Zapdos, Tornadus, Thundurus, Obstagoon, Braviary we used to see a long time ago. Bisharp is really good. Gets Inner Focus and Defiant. Very good abilities. 2-on-1 Pokemon makes it very good. But yeah, so that's my opinion on competitive and defiant. I think, like I said, every team I think should have one because it gives them something to prep against. We saw a lot of successful strategies that involved snarling regularly, or icy winding regularly, or electro webbing regularly, or whatever it might be. So that would actually make the opponent think about that in their prep. It's like, man, if I do this and he switches it in, not to mention if you snarl and they send out a Defiant Mon, you just tried to lower their special attack and they just switched in a physical attacker that gets +2. I've also seen people, they've run Adrenaline Orb with their Defiant Mon, because if you intimidate, yes, you're intimidated, you get the +1 instead of the +2 because you're down to -1, then up to +1. But the Adrenaline Orb gives you +1 speed. So I've seen Zapdos Galar with Defiant run the Adrenaline Orb. So you send it out, it's great. It's like you can intimidate it if you want, but now its base 100 speed is now much faster. So you can run, say, it Adamant rather than Jolly, and that, just in case that's actually activated, you've already got your speed boost from that. You don't need necessarily Jolly. Passimian's there too. Very cool pick. If somebody grabs that, I think Passimian could be very cool. Receiver, I remember. Yeah. Anyway, next ability, Frisk. Frisk is very cool. I'd say one of the most undervalued abilities in the game, which is why it's on this list. And so far, Mold Breaker, Inner Focus, Competitive, Defiant, and Frisk, they're not, people know about them. They're not secrets or anything. This isn't like anything special. It's just more so, hey, did you remember this? You know, especially when you're doing your draft prep and things like that, it could actually really help with choosing one Pokemon or another. It could actually kind of push one over to one side, or whatever it might be. So let's get into Frisk. What is Frisk? It reveals the items that your opponent has when your Friskmon enters the battle. So if you start the battle with, say, a Dusclops with a Frisk on it, which most of the time it runs because it's not going to run pressure most of the time. Draft League, knowing your opponent's items is probably one of the most valuable things in a match. That's why you guys see a much different match when you're in a blind tournament as opposed to an open team tournament. Not knowing what you're going to face. And that's why Draft League's so much fun, is because you have no idea what they're going to run. We've seen so many different things. Like, I think there was one week this season that we had weakness policy in DD. And as we all know, most of the time it just follow me's, give support, helping hand, expanding force here and there. But it ran weakness policy. So if, for example, if he led a Frisk monster, you find out that there's a weakness policy on the Indeedee. Now there's no secret. There's no surprise anymore. You know what it's going to do, or what the plan is for it to do. It can obviously do other things in the match, but the plan is to do that. Or say a focus sash. Finding out if something has a focus sash before the battle starts is massive. And you can also use it another way too. You can lead it, switch it out, and then later in the battle you switch it in. Now you know the items of the Pokemon in the back, if they're out there at the time. So Frisk, very good. Knowing 50% of your opponent's items in a game right off the bat is so valuable. A lot of who has the focus sash, who has a choice item, who has the life orb, who has a pinch berry, who has like a berry that, like a yachi berry, or what's it called, the shuka berry, things like that. Those are massive pieces of information that to determine whether or not you're going to KO something. And a lot of the time, those items, they catch you off guard, and so you're expecting a KO, they don't get it, and now a bad matchup that you thought they had is now flipped around because they have that berry. So knowing that they have that is massive. You can hit something with a super effective attack that's in half by that item because of, you know, the Kasi berry or whatever it might be. That's super effective, cuts it in half. Now you can attack with something that's neutral, and it might actually do more damage in certain situations. So very cool. Pokemon that get Frisk are Orbeetle, Gmax, Grimmsnarl. It's kind of a giveaway because Pranksters most of the time the ability you go with on Grimmsnarl. But in Frisk, it will tell you that they have Frisk right away as soon as they enter the battle. The Dusclops, Dusknoir, that family line, Gothitelle, Gourgeist, Noivern, Trevenant, Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff, very cool. Competitive and Frisk, actually. Those defenses are pretty poor, but I think with the 85 special attack, one competitive boost could really make this thing a monster. And not to mention Frisk, it could be used support-wise as well. Very cool stuff. So that's Frisk. So we've gone over Mold Breaker, Inner Focus, Competitive, Defiant, Frisk. Now one that people might not really know much about, pickup. A lot of people, they use pickup in games with like a Zigzagoon or things like that in their playthrough, and you pick up, oh man, I got a rare candy on my playthrough, that's so cool. And for the most part throughout Pokemon history competitively, this ability has no competitive use. Now, I don't know when they put it in place. It can be used in double. Singles, this has no place unless your opponent uses an item. You can pick it up, but anyway. So pickup, if the user has no held item, so if the pickup Pokemon has no held item, it will pick up an item that's consumed in battle by your doubles partner. So think of all the possibilities. So proccing a weakness policy, things like that. They get the +2 on their policy boost from you proccing it. Now the weakness policy goes back onto the person that did it. Now they can have policy on them, and you could potentially have 2 Pokemon with activated policies. Not to mention, you can actually have 2 Pokemon that have pickup on the same field. One procs the policy on one, they drop it, it goes back on the other one, and then he procs the policy on the other one. Goes back and forth, just picking up the same item back and forth. So there's been some cool strategies with like King's Rock, things like that. You could just get endless flinches. So I think I actually read that King's Rock is banned in singles now because of that. But not so much the doubles version, but in singles, throwing it, the automatic flinch is I guess it's broken. I don't know. But that's singles. So Pokemon that can use it, Gourgeist, Dedenne, Linoon, Diggersby. There's not a lot, actually. I was actually looking at pickup and Friscan. Ooh, look at that. Friscan pickup. But just pickup alone, not a whole lot. Like, obviously, you have the ones down here. They're not very viable in actual competitive play. Maybe Munchlax or Pumpkaboo, things like that. We saw Galarian. Oh, Linoon, not Zigzagoon. Yeah, don't use that. So most of the one, there it is. Gourgeist, Diggersby, Dedenne, Meowth. I haven't really seen any Gmax Meowth, but I'm sure it's good. But yeah, like there's a couple different ways you can use it too. So a lot of fling strat. So if you fling an item at someone, oh, that's what it was. King's Rock. You fling the King's Rock at the opponent. They flinch. Your opponent, if they have no item, it picks it up. So there's actually a strategy you can do where both of them have items. You fling both of them at the exact same time, or at that same turn. At the end of the turn, the opposite one picks up the other's item, and they just keep the items over and over. You throw it, they drop it, switch again, they both pick it up. So there's different ways you can use that. So I can see healing berries being a big deal. King's Rock, weakness policy, those could be really, really fun things, but only a handful of Pokemon get pickups. So I can see some shenanigans with Gourgeist or Dedenne or even Linoons and things like that. Could be a lot of fun. So if you're looking for a fun tech to throw onto your team, pickup could be the one, I don't know, that you just want to annoy people with. So I think it could be a lot of fun. But that's pickup. So if you didn't know about it, give it a try on the ladder in Showdown, or draft it. See how it goes. The last one, and because the video has been going a little, what are we at? A little over 20 some odd minutes. So yeah, I guess I'll just do the next video for unused moves or underused moves. But the last ability I'm going to run today is Unnerve. As I mentioned earlier, Shuka Berry, Kasib Berry, Haban Berry, things like that, they cut super effective moves in half, and a lot of people use them in Draft League because you're expecting a very, very strong move. You can look on the other side of the field and say, this is going to use something that's really detrimental to my whatever it might be. So in prep, if you're expecting that matchup to happen, you can actually throw the corresponding berry that you're expecting, and you'll survive the hit, and then you can return a hit back, kill it, or put yourself in an advantage as well. So it's very, very good to have those berries, and Unnerve will actually stop that from happening. You cannot eat a berry. Your opponent actually cannot eat their berries. You can eat your berries. They can't eat theirs, which is actually really cool. So it's not like just a field kind of ability, like neutralizing gas and things like that. It just affects your opponent, so I guess Unnerve. Yeah, so, and not to mention heal berries as well. So if somebody's wanting to use like a belly drum strat or something like that, a lot of the times they throw the citrus berry on there. So they use belly drum, go down to half or just under half health, and then they use their berry. and then they get backed up to what, 75 or 80% health, whatever it might be, because it's 33%, I believe. Yeah, I forget what it is. But yeah, not being able to use those berries on your opponent's side could be it could give you a win if it's used at the right time. So like, for example, like if there's a matchup, like say, I remember there was Hydreigon versus Dragapult one week that I was in, and if you look at that matchup, Hydreigon loses to Dragapult because it's slower, right? So if a Max Wormwind comes off and for whatever reason it KOs your Hydreigon, you lose that matchup. But if the speed tier is changed or they get to survive a hit, they can exchange hits. You survive, it does half damage with the Haban Berry from the Dragapult to your Hydreigon, and you get to do a Max Wormwind back or Max Darkness back to him, and you could actually win that exchange. So one item could make or break that exchange. So if you know your opponent's very, very good at prepping like that, you could use Unnerve on a handful of Pokemon. So T-Tar with Unnerve, Sandstream's pretty good. Most of the time if you have T-Tar, you're running a Sand team. Aerodactyl's very, very good at it. Galvantula, Haxorus, Persian. We saw Persian in Season 1 finals with the Unnerve ability for exactly that reason. So very, very cool ability. Very underused, but very, very good if used at the right time against the right person. So yeah, that's pretty much all I really want to get into. Yeah, I hope this really helps. Pretty much the whole goal with all of these videos is to kind of help everybody just look at a side of team building and drafting and things like that you might not have known about. You might have a one-dimensional way of thinking that you're unaware of, or you just kind of go with the standard abilities, Intimidate, things like that. You know, abilities that you just think work, and without seeing these in action and actually hearing about them. So hopefully this helps. Comment down below if you guys have any questions, or throw it in the Discord, whatever it is you guys want to talk about it, or you want to keep all your strategies to yourself and just draft it on draft day. So but yeah, that's it for today. Tune in for the next video. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm going to do the rest of the moves that are underused, that are very, very good. Same as this, but they're going to be move based. Yeah, hopefully this helped, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.